I have to thank Shauna mostly for really introducing me to philanthropy, because building the company, we were always reinvesting in the business, growing. Well, it got to a point where we were becoming profitable and realized that there's so many people that actually could benefit. You know, this community has supported me right from inception to what it is now.
Yeah.
With lifelong customers and clients, and it's been fantastic. So why would I not want to give some of that back to the community that supports me and all the families that work at River's Edge?
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia. Prince George is the capital of northern BC, at least that's how I call it, an absolute fabulous place. We're podcasting around the world. A very interesting couple today, and it is Bruce Williams and Shauna Allan.
Yes.
And they are local entrepreneurs from Prince George. I've known Bruce quite a while, and I've met you before, I believe, Shauna, but tell us a little bit about your background, starting with Bruce.
Well, thanks again for having us on here, John.
Sure.
So my background's in the automotive repair and maintenance industry.
What's the name of the company?
Company is called River's Edge Auto Service.
Why is it called the River Edge?
Well, because I used to be right on River Road, right across from your original plant.
In my building.
In your building, yeah.
That's why it is.
Yeah, and then we ended up moving up to 18th Avenue, so...
Yeah.
But we're still there, still use the name.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're in the auto repair and maintenance here in Prince George. We're affiliated with Napa Auto Pro, which with Auto Pro sets a very high standard, high bar of how we operate, all our systems procedures, and gives nationwide warranty to all of our customers all across North America.
Good. So you started the company 20 years ago?
Yeah, in 1994.
1994. Oh, that is nearly 30 years.
Nearly 30 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you've obviously grown and expanded and...
Yep. Yeah, when we started on River Road, we started basically one bay, small, and took over a little bit bigger space there.
Yeah.
Was that in John's building?
That was in John's building, yeah. And
did I own it then already?
No, it was still the cement mix, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you purchased it, and then you moved up to 18th and expanded a little bit more then. Yeah. And then we always grew in small baby steps. Yeah. It was quite comfortable to do that.
That is the entrepreneurial side of you, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of financial backing behind me and family money or anything, so I just took nice baby steps and made sure my family was taken care of at the time, and we could also sustain all the company growth.
Yeah.
So, and now we're a 12-bay shop with 13 employees, and we're the largest independent auto shop here in the north.
Yeah. A lot has changed too in the years, right, in that kind of business?
Very, very much. Everything, every vehicle nowadays has 20 or more computer modules in it, controlling everything. Your light switches or your window switches in your door, they don't operate the motor. They're a computer telling another computer to roll your window up.
It's not anymore, it's broke down, I'll open the hood and say, it's all okay. Brr, brr. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Not anymore, huh?
Not at all, no. We spend a lot of money in training with our high-end technicians. Yeah. Me and my best diagnostic guy just spent a week, a month for the last 7 months doing EV training down at BCIT, and finished it off for 2 weeks straight in Montreal with the best EV trainers in North America.
Are you originally from Prince George?
Not originally, no. I grew up in Kamloops, Ashcroft area. Okay. But my parents always had family up here in Prince George, so I came here many times visiting, Christmas times, things like that.
So when did you kind of establish yourself here?
My parents moved here in 1984.
Okay.
And that's where I came here, went to school here, and just stayed. Love it here.
So, Shauna, you also are an entrepreneur and very entrepreneurial. I believe you were selected as business person.
Top 40 under 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was it was actually really cool to get that because I'm right on the brink
Yeah.
of turning 40, and I just snuck in under the wire of being awarded that, and yeah, it felt really good. It was a dream of mine a long time ago when I first started, and I kind of hung up the hat that maybe it's not going to happen, but I'll find a new goal, and the award came at the right time.
So what is your background? Are you from the Prince George area originally? Or?
I grew up here. I'm originally from Quesnel.
Okay.
Yep, just a short drive away. And I started my career first in the car industry. I did finance and insurance in the car industry for over 10 years.
Okay.
My dad worked in the industry. My brother worked in the industry. And it was just a natural fit for me to head in that direction.
Yeah.
There was a time in my life where tragedy hit our family. My mom passed away suddenly. It was very unexpected. And I think when tragedy hits you, it's a good wake-up call. It's a good checkup.
Yeah.
You know, what am I doing with my life? How am I being impactful?
Right.
Is there something bigger? And I decided to move to the not-for-profit industry for a bit. Worked at Spirit of the North Healthcare Foundation for a couple of years. And
What did you do there?
finance. I was a finance
Oh,
manager
financing as well. Yeah.
Yep. And that was a humbling, the most community-minded role I have ever been a part of.
Right.
And from there, then I decided that I wanted to grow legs on my impact. I wanted to impact people farther.
Yeah.
So I decided to start my own business, and I chose the lingerie industry. I design bras and underwear for women because I believe the items that sit closest to our skin have the power to boost our confidence so we can show up differently in the world.
That has all changed a lot too, right? People are a lot more, it's not anymore like it used to be in the olden days. People are lots more sensitive about healthy things and.
Yeah, I think a couple things happened in the world of fashion. I think the pendulum swung from needing to wear it for somebody else only.
Right.
To now we use it as a tool. They're essentials, daily essentials, and mood boosting. So there's a little bit of retail endorphins there as well, which is nice. And I also think the older women get, the more we demand what we want. We want comfort, we want style, we want kind of a voice at the table, which has been a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I grew up. I'm 83, so when I grew up during the war years in Holland, and then, but a lot of people think that after the war everything was back to normal. Well, it isn't. Yeah. It probably takes a whole generation, if not longer. Yeah. And but in regards to clothing and all the other things, I got hand-me-downs from everybody.
Right.
My bike, so we got hand-me-downs or just patch it up and fix it up, and that kind of a thing. Not so much. Be a lot more, even the male now is more sensitive about what we wear, especially, the older ones still walking around with what they used to wear in the 50s. I'm a little different. They say to me, is that all you have? But yeah. I like what I wear, so that makes me feel comfortable, but it's very, very important. And, the other thing that played a big role, probably in your business as well, the internet has played a big, big role. And so, and even being in business, are you also active on the internet?
I am, yeah. I built my business to be online.
Okay.
That was my intention from the get-go, is I wanted just to be an online business. And then the more I got out in Prince George and did shows and got my name out there, people wanted a place to try stuff on. So I opened up my first retail location a year ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, so a large part of my business is still the online market, and then I also get to serve women in northern BC in person.
And if you think online, is that online to me means, because of what I do, podcasting, we are global virtually. But it's so amazing that interacting with people in the States or in Europe, and it's still, I believe, in its infancy. It's still expanding, it's still growing, still lots of opportunities and all of that, right?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. We're in 7 countries now, and it's expansive. Like, it's only 7 countries, and it's 7 countries. Like, it's amazing. And your podcast is the same.
Yeah.
It's infinite. It can go anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
And more so all the time. And, and obviously what I'm doing is podcasting. Even this podcast will be seen around the globe. And it's amazing, the interaction that we are getting and the people that are watching. We have had podcasts where nearly 500,000 people are watching them from around the globe.
Yeah.
And all different places. So, Prince George has been interesting. I came here in 1965. It was then a boomtown. You say, when did you get here? When are you leaving? It's a place to make money and then you leave, right? So it has changed so immensely. And what comes to mind is the infrastructure of Prince George is a very good family town now, with the university, the colleges behind us, the new swimming pool, and the infrastructure of Prince George is unique. And then northern BC in particular, for our international viewers, British Columbia is a big province. Yes. Virtually 1,500, 1,600 kilometers from north to south and east to west, about the same. And then northern British Columbia Prince George is exactly, somebody in Vancouver would disagree with me, but nearly in the middle of it, And then and flying over British Columbia, and all you see is forest and all the mining opportunities, and so it's compared to in particular now, looking at the rest of the world, I love Canada and I love BC, and then northern BC in particular, but also today, with all the issues going on obviously in Eastern Europe and then Middle East, and we are very fortunate to be here.
We are very fortunate to be here. Yes, it's BC, I find, is unique in the sense it is very community minded.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you go, it's kind of like family. And because we have so much vast space here, when we experience things like the pandemic, I felt very fortunate to be on this part of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you see business like for you, Bruce? Where you're obviously going carefully, but you've grown quite a bit in the 30 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, River's Edge's next step is we are the first certified EV repair facility in the north.
Okay.
So all the new electric vehicles that everybody makes, we are fully certified to repair them in our shop.
This is quite a step, right?
It's a huge step. It was a lot of work. The training was amazing. And I'm very fortunate to have a great team that works at the company. And the younger guys, they just love this.
Yeah.
That's, they grew up on cell phones. We had to get them when we were older and figure them out, right? They naturally progress into it. They love it. And their brains just work right to be able to diagnose these very difficult computer networking problems and things like that. So that's our next step, our next phase, and just keep growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I look at electric vehicles, obviously we have, the ones that are made in North America, but
Teslas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Toyota is working on a new concept altogether from what they are using, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're working on hydrogen powered.
Yeah.
Hydrogen EV mixtures. Yeah. So they're doing that. Plus now they're actually bringing out, I just seen an article today. They're building a strictly EV truck now.
Yeah.
So people are saying they're behind the market coming into it, but these guys always have the plans.
They are good, right? So I'm not promoting any particular car makes, but I remember that deal was locally a lot, and so dealing with the guys at Toyota here, and a couple of years ago, I said to one of the guys at Toyota that had been dealing with us, and I said, I'm kind of thinking this, and I'm thinking that, but and he said, next time you walk outside of your office, you should walk out your office, see what's in the parking lot. Every single car was a Toyota.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So so that has been very good. But on the other hand, with all the new technology, to keep up with that is going to be a challenge, and probably competitive. Correct me if I'm wrong. The key to electric vehicles is that refueling, having locations for one,
Yeah.
and then the time it takes to refuel, and then the power or the ability to compare it to the traditional engines that we are used to.
Right.
But Toyota is moving in that direction. How about the other people?
I just read another article today. GM just put off their new EV Silverados for another year. Ford is down their production on their F-150s for a year. So
Why?
I think they're struggling, honestly, with battery production.
Yeah.
The materials it takes to build them. Just being able to mine and get it out of the ground
So
and to build their
is that not changing? But I forget now what it is, but they take out of the ground.
the lithium.
Yeah, that Toyota, the new generation, doesn't use that.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's so many new technology in the batteries structure themselves.
Which is the key, right?
The key, absolutely. And it's exponentially changing. What we know today will be completely forgotten about next year.
Yeah.
That's how fast they're improving it.
Yeah, that's the danger in terms of making major capital expenditures, right?
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden, you have to kind of look at it in terms of the training that you do, the investment that you make, and infrastructure to accommodate all of that. The other thing, that I noticed you've been quite active in the community as well in terms of, I always believe, and that's how I grew up, and I grew up in Holland and with my family, and being exposed to business there, communities and culture was always very, very important. So to me, it came natural. That's what we do, being involved, and I think that is very important for companies, very important for communities.
Yeah, I have to thank Shauna mostly for really introducing me to philanthropy, because building the company, we were always reinvesting in the business, growing. Well, it got to a point where we were becoming profitable and realized that there's so many people that actually could benefit. This community has supported me right from inception to what it is now.
Yeah.
With lifelong customers and clients, and it's been fantastic. So why would I not want to give some of that back to the community that supports me and all the families that work at River's Edge?
Yeah.
So every chance we get, we try to hop on board with somebody, to whether it's time or donations or spreading the word, whatever it takes. It's great, and Shauna really helped me see the value in that too.
Yeah, and that's important. Yeah, I remember, one of my good friends, Jim Good from Good Nature Park. He had some challenges, and I'd say you helped him out, and I've been working with them for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years or so, I think. I always remember, an example of I use them actually in my book as well as an example of commitment. And, I remember in my office, I think the front desk called my office and he said, "We got a fellow in, he wants to talk to you about, he needs some wood." I said, "He needs some wood?" And short pieces. I said, "Well, I'm busy." And he said, "No, he wants to see you." I said, "Okay." So I go downstairs and, Jim Good. I didn't know him then. And so he said he had this Good Nature Park which I got to know. Obviously, is amazing.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been out there.
And so he explained to me he needs these short pieces, and he was getting them from one of the building supplies. I'm not saying which one, but and they gave him 10% discount on the lumber, and they said he couldn't do that any longer. He had to pay full price. So he was seeing if I maybe had short pieces that I would give him 10% discount on. So I said, I need to know more about this story. So I took him into one of my boardrooms and started talking to him. And the more I heard about it, the more I thought, this is amazing. Where has this guy been, and how come we know so little about it?
Yeah.
So the first thing that I said to him, you can get all the lumber you want for free. That is one. And then we went down and got to know what he has there. And, it's an amazing story. And, the key now obviously is to, he has had some health issues several times.
Yeah.
And, the key now is to keep him healthy and preserving what he has created for over all these years,
It's surprising that, we just learned about Good Sir Nature Park a few years ago from Scott. I think he did a post on Facebook, and I was like, oh, let's go out there. And how many gems we have that it's kind of fluky. We fell into it, but he has an incredible story.
Yeah.
That's generous of you to help him.
Yeah. And the commitment over time and the effort that he put into it. And then the other part is the gramophone history that he has. I don't know if you saw that. And he is an amazing disc jockey, Amazing. If you see him, you talk to him, and then hear him on the radio, he knows all the background from all the records that he has. He knows the people, the history behind him. Amazing.
Yeah.
And he is very, very, very good in that area.
Neat.
Yeah, it's almost like there's two completely different experiences when you go out there.
No question about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has he been on the podcast?
Pardon me?
Has he been on the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least once, maybe more than once, So, yeah.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. He's, I forget when, but quite a while ago, actually. And so, Shauna, so where is your business going from here on in?
Well, Modern Match is still fairly young. We're just 3 years old. So, this stage of business is really about making sustainable moves, strengthening kind of the core structure of the business so we can, us two grow sustainably in the world for longevity. Yeah, so we're just kind of strengthening our manufacturing processes. We have 2 new manufacturers, one in Vancouver and one in LA. And then we have a main manufacturer over in China. And just developing more of the collection and direction on where we're going.
Yeah, it's such a, interesting, and I feel that with the business that I'm doing is on the lumber side, somewhat like you, Bruce, when I started, when I came to Canada, July 1965, and I came to Canada because we were liberated by the Canadian Army in April the 12th, 1945. And and I was then nearly 5 years old, made such an impression on me that I always knew I was going to go to Canada, the land of my heroes. And so I tried to go when I was 17. My parents wouldn't let me. I was too young. And then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force for 30 months, and then worked in the forest industry. My dad worked in the forest industry, managed a small mill, didn't own it, and but I was going to go into the lumber business. And then when I was 24, I decided to go, and then my dream was to build my own lumber mill. And then obviously where all the timber was in British Columbia.
Right.
So, and I was not very successful in school academically. I failed grade 3, and I failed grade 7 3 times. Ooh. She said, what are we going to do with this guy? You know, send him to the mentally challenged school, or do we get him a job? Fortunately, he decided to get me a job, sent me to a furniture factory, and I started there working with my hands. In the evenings, go to college and become a furniture maker.
Oh.
That served me well, because one, I already was doing quite well, even with grade 7, is in the lumber companies in Holland. But then I felt I had to prove to myself that I could do that just as well as the other kids that went to school with me, that went to college and university. I became a laborer. I'm proud of that now, but then it was kind of looked down on a bit, you know, so I wanted to do, the dream was to go to Canada, the other dream was to build my own lumber company. And so I left Holland in July of 65. I wanted to start from the bottom with nothing. Didn't want any contacts, although the lumber companies I worked for had contacts in lumber companies like Macmillan Budell, but I said, no, I don't want that. I want to start from the bottom with nothing. And so when I arrived in Vancouver, didn't speak English, didn't know a job, didn't know anybody. And fortunately, I went to the immigration department, and fortunately there was a German fellow. I could speak some German. Told him what I wanted to do, build a lumber mill. He said, Prince George, 1965. That's where you have to go. So I spent 12 hours in the bus, came off the bus here, my Greyhound station here. Unfortunately, I had imploded here about 2 months ago, close by. That used to be the Greyhound station.
That used to be the Greyhound station?
Yeah.
Oh.
In 1965, I came off it. I had my suitcase, and I had, my employees made this. I had $25.47, but what I did have is attitude, avoid the negative. I always look at things in a positive way. Passion, you know, I love the things that I'm doing, and I give it all that I got. Work ethic, and then follow that, but follows his success.
100%, yeah.
So obviously I couldn't buy a mill with $25.47, you know, but I started as a laborer, you know, first as a lumber piler. There was something on Facebook that I saw today, and it's saying, how much did you get paid in your first job? That was a question that somebody put there. And I looked at some of the answers, and some people said $8 and this and that. I had $2.20. I got 2 weeks, 80 hours, $2.20, $160, a little bit more than that, you know. So, yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah, so the same job now gets well over $20 an hour, and that's probably a good thing. And, you know, so, but, you know, from that point forward, I, you know, when I came here, started as cleaner man, lumber piler, and then started to work in the mills. One of the mills that I worked for was Netherlands overseas, purely coincidental. I didn't know anybody. There was just a new mill that started up here. I became a cleaner man there, then got promoted to lumber piler, then became green chain foreman, and then the next I was sawmill foreman on one of the shifts, and then the next thing, within a year and a half, I was superintendent.
Well,
that was good. And then there was an opportunity to buy into a sawmill, and I bought into a sawmill, but I didn't have any money. I would make a commitment that I would manage the mill for 5 years, and I would own 1/3 of it. I stayed in a motel. Okay, where was that, John? Watson Lake, Yukon.
Oh, wow.
Have you been in Watson Lake?
Yeah.
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 So I always say about Watson Lake, beautiful area, but it snows in July, and you don't know if it is late or early. You know that, and I bought the motel, and then I was with the mill for about 4 years, 4.5 years. Then the people that owned it had different ideas than I had. Then I left there, started over again here, and then became cost accountant for Netherlands Overseas, then mill manager, marketing manager for them, and then did a business plan in 1975 to start a lumber remanufacturing plant. Now you were right across the street. You sometimes were wondering what we're doing probably, but what I was doing is taking lower grade lumber that had defects on it to cut out the defects and then make higher grades from it. Not many people were successful on it. Why? Well, for a number of reasons. They didn't have the background, the hands-on background that I had. I can fix things because that's how I grew up. I can do things. And work ethic, I'd work as long as I could stay awake 24/7, right? So that's what I did the first 30 years that I worked there, right up to, the first 30 years. And then the other part was that I had to find a way of, because if you want to be successful, you have to find a business that it has to be a niche of some sort for your business, or you have to be better than the others. How can you create a model that makes you uniquely different from anybody else? It's unique. In my case, I brought in what we call finger jointing, where you create fingers on two ends, male, female, add glue, put them together, and that really was not done in Canada. And I had, again, from my past experience, I got the knowledge of it, found a finger joint machine, and where I found it in 1975, there was a place that made windows in the United States, and Marvin Windows, still there actually, not only there, in many other places. Where were they located? In Warroad, Minnesota. And so how do you get there? Well, so I talked to them, and they had the machine, they had it for sale, and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. So I flew into Winnipeg, got a car, went across the border to Warroad, Minnesota. Now, Warroad is just before you go off the deep end. There's the end of the world there, just before. So I got to the store, or to the plant, big plant. So I told them why I was there, and they said, oh, yeah, okay, they're over there somewhere in that area. You go find it. So I crawled my way all around, and there in the way in the corner was this finger joint machine. And I bought it, hauled it down to Prince George, rebuilt it, modified it, and then created that first finger joint plant. Now, interestingly enough, initially they said, that will never work because, it's like firewood glued together and people will never use it. Well, it became a unique product, and I developed a market for it primarily in Texas. Why? The problem they had in Texas is one of the biggest lumber markets in all of the United States. Texas is big, and they're building a lot of houses. They were using southern yellow pine, and the problem they had is much twist and crook.
Oh, okay.
And so in our case, we do as many as 5 different pieces glued together, so it's much more stable. And it is stronger than the average piece of solid wood, meaning that the maximum allowed defect or medium allowed defect, if you put it next to one of our pieces, it would break the solid one before it would ours. So gradually it became accepted, but then it went better than that. It was preferred in a lot of cases, and we usually sell for at least 25-30% higher price than solid studs would do. And stud is for compression only. It's usually used in walls, not structural. And so now, today, if you drive by our plant, then Even with the depression in the forest industry and all the other kind of things, we still operating. We have a plant in Prince George, one in Vanderhoof, one in Houston. I started out as the sole owner because nobody else wanted to invest in it.
Right.
And then after the first year and a half, I started out with $25,000 and, and 3 employees. And then in the first 3 months, I lost $75,000. And every time a car went by there, and I thought, oh, there's the bank saying, okay, John, you've seen it, give me the keys. And, it's, you had your try and it's not working. So, but they stayed with us. And then from there, I look at the company today. We have, still the sole owner of all the companies that we have. We have the plant in Prince George, one in Vanderhoof, one in Houston. Normally, when the plants are running normal, we employ about 400 people, and we just do pretty much do 100% of our volume is finger jointed. So but it's uniquely different.
Yeah.
Finding that niche, and and going through all the ups and downs, and next year it will be 50 years since I started the plant.
Wow.
And I've gone through 7 ups and downs, and then I thought the most challenging period would be 2006 to 2009, in particular, where we had a recession, nearly a depression. But I was wrong, because the worst yet to come would have been COVID, and then what followed right up to today. In the forest industry today, as you all know, because it's on the news all the time, we used to have 110 sawmills in BC. Now we got something like 60.
Yeah.
And the likelihood is that by 2030, we'll have 35 to 40 left.
So is there any time in your career history where you can look back and think you wish you would have done things differently?
It's a good question. I would have done them, but the one that had the most impact on me likely is, at one point what would happen is that structural lumber, that if you go structural lumber, respectfully, I assume that you're not fully aware of what it is. It's all the wood that you use in a building that has to have a stamp on it that it meets certain criteria to be certified as being, the structure is from an engineering perspective, sound and solid. Mm-hmm. They do that just to make sure that it is certified. So the mills that produce the lumber have to put a stamp on it that certifies it to be that quality. I took the courses as a grader that can put on certification. We do the same for our products. And so I was buying products from the industry, lower grades that had to meet a certain standard. And then I found out that the industry here had 2 sets of standards. The one that was the public one, and then they had another set of standards that was the confidential or secret one, far less restrictive. And I thought that was the wrong thing to do. And I was with the local association of lumber producers, and I didn't believe that we were doing the right thing, and so they cut me off all my supply overnight.
Oh wow!
And then I took them to court. I'd never been in a courtroom in my life.
Right.
What I did not realize is that I thought it was Prince George or the region. Then I found it was BC. Then I found out it was Canada. and then I found out it was North America. They were doing that from Florida to California, from Labrador to Alaska.
Wow.
Wow.
It was a multi-billion-dollar fraud that had gone on for a long time. And I took them to court, but they put me virtually out of business. I had no more supply. I somehow was indirectly able to buy some supply. Then I couldn't sell my chips. They wouldn't accept them, although I'm the closest mill to the pulp mills. So I couldn't put them in the dump here because the city would not do that. I had to send them all the way to Mackenzie and for them to just accept them. Wow. And so it pretty much put me out of business. And so it was August the 5th, 1987, when at 10 o'clock in the morning, I can still stand close to my gate where this inspector told me, because I had been complaining about the quality, right, saying that there are two sets of grading rules. The one is confidential, far less restrictive, and the official one. That's what is happening. This thing is going to blow up at some point. It's going to be major, major problem. So somebody has to do something about it. So that's what I did. So from that point forward, August 5th, 1987, at 10 o'clock in the morning, till 1990, when I had the 60-day lawsuit about it. The other side had at least a half a dozen lawyers and a lot of other ones that were indirectly from North America and potentially connected to it. I had only one lawyer, and I had to I could sit next to him because I couldn't afford a second lawyer. I had nothing left. Right. And I won the case, and it changed all the grading rules in North America.
Wow.
Wow.
Good for you.
So if it's in my book, if you ask me the question, what did you do and what would you have done different, is a good question. I would have done the same thing, but I always believed that what I thought was wrong, that my peers would feel the same. They didn't. And I was brought up that if I look in the mirror in the morning and I know this exists, how could I? And so that was one that pretty much destroyed my company. And then all I had left is the one building across from you. That's the only one that I had left. And then a lot of other property and all the other things I lost. But then I built it up again from that point forward, and and so still to where we are today. And but the story. Did I give you a copy of my book?
No.
I'm going to give you guys a copy of my 3 books that I did. So I'm also so that was the one question that you asked me. The other thing that my dream was to go to Canada. My dream was to build my own lumber mill. I did that. And then that had a major impact on my life. And then the other thing that had an impact on my life is that I thought I had been a failure because I failed grade 3 and grade 7. And then in Holland, it works this way. If, at some point you're going to get married, you got to have a family, you need a good job, and you want a house, and then you go to the bank or to your potential get a job, and they say, okay, where are your diplomas? Well, I had no diplomas, so, and although I was doing already quite well, but I kind of felt that kids among each other are hard at each, so that I started becoming a laborer when I was 14, and the kid that I would go to school with, and they went to college and to university, and that put me kind of outside of them. I'm a laborer. And so the other challenge that I had is that even already when I had the mill and all the things that were happening across the street from you, is that everybody said, oh, you're so successful, blah, 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 blah. I didn't feel that way at all. I felt it still was a failure. And, and then the other challenge that I had is that I had a difficult time communicating with more than maybe 2 or 3 people in my setting. If it was a larger setting, it was difficult for me. And so at one point and it was kind of interesting because I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago at the Rotary, and I always remember I mentioned it during that meeting, is that at some point I was invited to become a member of the Rotary, and I did that, and I went down there, and after being there for about 3 or 4 weeks, at one point somebody called me up to the stand and say, "Hey John, why don't you tell us about you?" And I thought, oh my God, what a horror for me. Absolutely, I would have never gone that if I knew they wanted. I don't know how I even got through it. So then what happened to me is that my ex-sister-in-law in 1990-ish, 89, 90, dragged me to Toastmasters.
You did Toastmasters too, didn't you?
Briefly, yeah.
And so I said, what are they doing there? They want me to talk because I'm not going to talk. No, don't worry about it. You just sit there and then you just listen and you may like it. I said, okay. So I went down to Toastmasters and I'm sitting there and then say, "Hey, John, tell us a little bit about you." I said, I'll never go back here. Anyway, I did. I stayed there for 10 years. And I'm simply telling this as an example and how the greatest fear that most people have is public speaking. So I went from that point. I've seen a lot of people going to Toastmasters. I've seen a lot of people having extreme difficulty with it, but I've never, ever found anybody like me. That feeling of anxiety and the fear of being there. And so I stayed with them for 10 years, became a DTM, a Distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level in Toastmasters. And I was there for 10 years. Still may go back once in a while, but that changed my life in a major way. That created that feeling of self-confidence. I'm as good as everybody else is, not better than, but it allowed me to become less afraid of being, so I did that. So that made a major impact on my life. The other one was something else that happened. I walked into the store and, the bookstore, Books on 4th, in January of 1997. And I picked up a book. I still don't know why. The title of the book was Driven to Distraction. And it was about ADHD. And I said, oh my God, that's me. And I went through the book, and the guy that owned the store said, "We're going to buy it or what?" No, I didn't say that. But I picked it up and I wrote in Dutch in there. Now I finally know who I am. I wrote it in Dutch because I was ashamed of it, because there's stigma around it. Mm-hmm. So that is the fourth thing that changed my life, in a very dramatic way. DTMs, you being part of Toastmasters at one point, some people go through it and it helps them. For other people, like for myself, it was beyond that. I needed and then felt it helped me more, and then I felt a way of giving back. Right. And DTM is a Distinguished Toastmaster. Probably 500,000 people are doing Toastmasters around the world. There are numerous clubs. There's about 4 or 5 in Prince George, I think. And then there's probably between 5 and 10 million people that have done Toastmasters. Mm-hmm. And probably less than 1% of them go to the level of being a DTM. It's not necessary, but it just brings you to that higher level.
Right.
So since that time, then already then, it was in 1997, so I was there for 10 years, so now it is 2000, and so I already was 60 years old then. And then, since that time, I've been more involved in other things, building the company, becoming more involved in associations, being more involved in communities, doing public speaking, and then obviously then the other point that I did is, the people have said to me, you should write a book. And so I did this one here, Against All Odds. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, and then 2 years to write it.
Right.
Autobiography. Now, the interesting part about this is that you cannot write it and then kind of say, okay, well, it's not what I want, I should do another one. You do one and it better be right, or at least me well done. And so that's this one, and been quite successful. Now the other one that I felt that I become probably even I knew that I had ADHD, and in 1997 when I found that book. I was 57 years old, and it took me 5 years before I would go to my dog. That had been our family dog, delivered our 2 daughters, and was a personal friend. It took me 5 years before I checked out on Google, and I had to kind of know what all this stuff is. That I went to him, and he said, "Hey, John, why are you here?" I said, "I think I got ADHD." And so we disclosed, "Yeah, you do." And, and then the more I got to know about it, I say it's a superpower. And it is, because it allows me to do all the things that I do, which is a lot of stuff, all at the same time. And I talk about it more publicly about my background, PTSD because of war years and other things, and then ADHD, that I wrote a book about it, ADHD Unlocked, and I wrote it from the perspective of somebody with ADHD. So you can pick up anywhere, go forward or go backward, and be quite successful. Well, in fact, I gave a presentation to a class in the college on marketing, and I talked about all the things that I talk about normally, and I enjoy interacting with younger people. I gave a presentation and talked about ADHD as well. And then it was just this morning that, I heard from that one of the young persons that was there, young ladies that was there. She was going to give up on school because she was diagnosed with ADHD. And then when I did my presentation and gave him a copy of the books, she changed her mind. She's going to stay there. She's going to become an entrepreneur. So very rewarding in that sense. So that has been that one. And then the other one that I did is this book that came out in July, Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream. Amazing thing, I heard some statistics in the United States, that they say that 70% of the people that work don't like their jobs, and 75% of them don't like their job are looking for another job. Amazing, but I believe that likely is the case. And in terms of being an author, the other one that I do is that I'm working on right now is Living Young, Dying Old, and it's more, I want to be 120, so it is more, it's not so much age, but the quality of life and talking about the issues along the way. And, and that one should come out in July. And so what I'm trying to do is do a book every year. And then the other thing that I'm doing now is, I'm pretty well in demand as a public speaker and speak in different areas all over the place. I enjoy that. And talking about entrepreneurship and a number of other things. ADHD obviously is one, and the other one is doing the podcasting. you know, in the podcasting, again, I enjoy it because it gives us interaction like we are doing, and you know, and that kind of thing.
Good for you.
It's great.
So that's my story. So tell me a little bit more, or ask questions.
Geesh, I don't know how to follow that up.
No, you should. I'm not talking, because I kind of thought that you had kind of a reaction to the Toastmastering, or you know, the ADHD. You know, has become. You know, I believe ADHD, when I first heard about it, is that they thought that about 8% of the population had likely ADHD. I think it's much closer to 20%, if not more.
Right.
And I see that virtually on a daily basis. And it's not a disorder. It if you understand it, what I say with this book, and that's usually what I say, this book is not only for ADHD people, but it's also for people that have difficulty focusing on traditional things in terms of learning. It could be because of trauma, and it could be because of a number of other issues. And then I believe that the frequency of occurrence is so high that virtually for anybody, you will be exposed to ADHD, either in your family, your friends, in your workplace, in a general way. And people with ADHD are a little bit different in a lot of ways, but in a very positive way. It's good to get to know them and know more about them. So I urge people not only to read my book, but also other books. Mm-hmm. The other interesting thing I should mention to you, the first book that I Driven to Distraction is the one that I picked up in 1997, January 1997, written by a medical doctor, Hollywell.
Okay.
He contacted us 2 weeks ago. Must be on my podcast.
Really?
So
Wonderful.
I'm going to podcast him here in the next couple of weeks, I think.
That's
good.
fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
I think in terms of ADHD, I think, you know, as we grow up and probably the previous generations, like our parents' generation, there was such a linear path. Like you said, you go to school, then you find a wife, and you get a good job, and you provide for your family, and it's so linear. But when we discuss things like ADHD, there's, you know, has been in previous generations so much shame around having that open dialogue of, it's not a disorder if you can have it work for you. You know, and obviously you've tapped into that and able to find your superpower in ADHD as opposed to limiting what you can access.
I could not have done what I did unless I had ADHD.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, and I'm not an exception to it, and maybe in a way because of all the other things that I do, but, you know, like by the time that I started doing this, it really only started from me going in 2000 when I was 60 to Toastmasters.
Right.
For 10 years. And that kind of triggered the whole thing following that. It gave me the confidence that I could do that, growing up speaking Dutch, then transferring to English. I'm an amazingly good writer.
Yeah.
Is that? But that not untypical of ADHD individuals. I'm
Right.
very good at numbers,
Right.
especially if you have that thing in front of it, you know. So, you know, but numbers to me has always been good.
Yeah.
But in school, the problem that I had, most of the times I was not there mentally.
Right.
I hadn't got, if somebody would ask me, what did they talk about? I haven't got a clue because I was elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Those kind of things, you know, so, and understanding it, and, you know, I did a presentation out west here, and that evening when I had, the following day when I did the presentation, I was sitting there in the restaurant, and some fella came up to me and he said, I don't want to disturb your dinner, but can I have a talk to you after you finish? I said, sure. And so then I went over to him, and he said that he has a son 15 years old, and he was at one point a counselor of the Fraser Lake, the city, and they had been struggling with his son, and he was diagnosed with ADHD, and he was really, really troubled by it, and so was his son, and so they read the book together.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
nice.
great.
And it changed him in a way. So, and it doesn't make me unique other than that I wrote about it, and I speak about it, and I believe that's very important. Same as we look at things. I'm podcasting, as you probably have seen. I did in the last couple of weeks, couple of podcasts with people that have been exposed to trauma in different forms. And I believe those, again, are very important to talk about and have dialogue about it. And it's usually delicate, but so, and again, very, very interesting podcast. The lady that climbed the highest mountains, on 7 continents, amazing.
Yeah, I think the power of vulnerability goes a long way. Obviously you're opening doors for other people. And I think just having that regular dialogue about adversaries and turning it into something amazing, I think opens a lot of doors for other people who aren't ready to talk about it yet.
And the other part is, saying that people, are so sensitive about, I'm not good here, this doesn't look good, that doesn't look good, and I'm not this, that, or good, And I say we are all unique and special, I believe, and we should be at peace with who we are and what we are, and because a lot of young people in particular, very sensitive about other people think of me or her or whatever it is, and what you do is say, finding that being at peace is saying, I'm okay, not special, but I'm okay, and I believe that's important in terms of young people in particular, it's saying you have to have that feeling of, I'm okay,
Yeah, I deal with that a lot, being in the industry of bodies and lingerie and exposing yourself and showing up differently, that, for a lot of women, it's a bit of a head game to just get up and have to go bra shopping. And then, I get a lot of feedback with our photography featuring diversity and age demographics and just how welcoming it is, and the fact that they can look at pictures now that look like them, whatever that looks like, at every size, every age. It opens a lot of doors and it boosts confidence by other people being vulnerable.
And that's so important, to have that confidence,
Yeah.
That's, the other thing that I did, everybody gets a shock. What we usually do is, we say New Year's Eve, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. So then the following week you get your membership to the gym, and then you go 3 to 4 times, and then you're too busy, right? Because I can find another reason as why I can't go. Because, and then, so for me, I got a case of diverticulitis, nearly killed me, actually. And that kind of gave me a shock. And then from there on in, I had to get serious about diet. And my wife is very, very pro. She is vegan and very much into health and all the other things. And, so I hired a trainer and then started going to the gym. And I did that for about 10 years, so starting in 2008, and, then after about 6 or 7 years, somebody said, so I was already then 2008, 50, close to 70 years old. And somebody said, have you ever thought about competing?
I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
I said, me? Yeah. And so, then, yeah, why not? I said, and doing that, and then and then I started competing, and so fortunately by that time I already had confidence, but not to the extent that So then I started competing, and Prince George came in second in bodybuilding, third in physique. They qualified me for the nationals, and then for the provincials, then at the provincial, third in physique, second in bodybuilding there. That qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. But the first time that I had to go standing in front of 500 of my friends and my Speedos, but anyway, I like it, I enjoyed it, and I'm still trying to go. I go to the gym now and hope to start competing again in 2024.
Oh, good for you.
As the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America. Yes.
There you
Good
go.
for you. Good for you.
So, what else comes to mind? I will give you copies of the book.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have...
a lot of it, what you said resonates with me in progression of life and where you go. And that's, you asked me what my next stage is. We set River's Edge up really good with a great team. My son's taken over a big portion off my plate, and I'm moving on to, I'm very passionate about the industry I'm in, and I think it needs a lot of help. So I'm moving into coaching and coaching other automotive entrepreneurs, teaching them how to actually run a successful automotive repair business, as opposed to being just great technicians, because that's typically how it all starts. You're a great technician, want to go out on your own,
Right.
but you don't know how to run a business. And so I was fortunate to learn it all and figure it out, and I want to pass that on. So
the other thing that I find, Bruce, is that, what I've always been promoting is that I grew up in Holland, and obviously I was trained as a furniture maker. And that helped me a lot in my business here, because working with my hands, that had helped me. But my biggest challenge here is finding the skill sets, and that which we can, because there's such potential here with all the natural resources that we have. Lumber industry a little bit down the dumps, but at some point it will kind of pick up again.
Yeah.
But that's why I got involved with the college and Trades and Technology Center.
yeah,
Is that I believe we have to go beyond that. We should have a center of excellence, I call it, here in Northern BC, where we create the skill sets that no different than what they are using at BCIT. And BCIT, I like BCIT, but, they have something like 40,000 students there. And recently they're expanding it by another $250 million. I think they should spend it here.
yeah.
And so I've been quite proactive in that in terms of, promoting that. But so far, it has to become something like what we did. Could you give me another 3 for Shauna?
We can share. That's okay.
No, I want you to have 3 too.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think we have to do more of that. And, yeah.
Well, it would help a lot because, like you said, being up here, for people to travel to Vancouver, go to BCIT, or Alberta, go to SAIT, something like that, it's very expensive, hard to do. Why can't we have the resources here to help educate people and grow?
look at UNBC. That was a battle to get that. I
Right.
was quite involved in that as well.
And they're still battling to get more and more and more in all the time.
Yeah.
And yet I heard it was just rated
Top
number 1.
small
and-
university
Yeah.
for many years already, right?
And their brand new nursing program is high on the nursing rating program already, and it just started.
Exactly.
So they're doing a fantastic job.
Anyway, so I've been quite vocal about that, wherever the opportunity presents itself. And, so because the northern, what I usually say, the northern half of the province, or from Hope north, it's probably 3/4 of the province, is that we produce 80% of the GDP of the province. And I say to the guys, don't forget it, guys,
Yeah.
So some of the money should come to us here to build the infrastructure. But my biggest challenge is finding the skill sets
Yeah.
for my company, even today, right from the beginning. Middle management, entrepreneurs, and people that have the ability and skill sets.
Right.
And if you want to go in further manufacturing or value-added manufacturing, then that's precisely what we need, because we will have new technology in terms of electronic, robotics, and all of those things.
This has been wonderful. Thank you very much for having
Yes,
us.
thank you very much.
That's great,
You've got an amazing story, John, and like I said, I worked right across the street from you. I know you were always out there in the yard doing everything too. Whatever it took, you were working. Like I noticed it even just working across the street from you.
Yeah.
And hearing your stories and knowing where you're at now. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks. Now I'm going to give you 3 books, and
Thank you.
Shauna, I'll give you.
Thank you
3
very
books.
much. Thank you.
And, and I'm going to give you a hug.
Yeah.
Afterwards. Thanks for having you guys, and
Thank you.
kind of sharing your entrepreneurship and your connection and your commitment to the region and the community has been very great, and will be that in the future, obviously. And I hope you enjoy the books.
Yes.
We will, for
Yes,
sure.
we will.
Absolutely.
Nice having you.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.